they know that there's a program?
I think so, yeah.
Just to get one of the brahmacharis to make an announcement outside.
Yeah. Okay. I'll do that. I have your reading glasses.
Yeah.
So this is it.
Yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. So, welcome to the second session of Prabhupada Katha. Last night I read out some material from what will be volume 6 of the Transcendental Diary series. I should be able to get that out by about November, I think. So this is from Prabhupada's visit to Hyderabad. I lost the page now. This is December 1976. Okay, so going on, this is December the 3rd, 1976. Prabhupada had flown down to Hyderabad. He was going there particularly to go onto the farm, New Naimisharanya. It's about an hour out of Hyderabad, 560 acres of land. And it was given by the Badruka family. But there was a trust, Krishigo Raksha Trust, which had, I think, 7 trustees from ISKCON and 6 trustees from the family. So it was, we had the majority, but so when Prabhupada got to Hyderabad, the farm was not quite ready to receive him. The Mahamsa Swami had started building a small house for Prabhupada, and he needed a couple of more days to get that completed. So Prabhupada agreed to stay in the Hyderabad city temple that had been opened a couple of months previously at Janmashtami in 1976, and it was okay. So we'll start there. So Prabhupada is generally pleased with everything here in Hyderabad at his newly opened temple. The programs are proving popular. Artis are well attended by the young and old alike, and the devotees are making many new life members. A small host of children participated enthusiastically in the evening kirtan, the amplified strains of which boomed mutely through Prabhupada's room as he conversed with his guests during an extended darshan. When Prabhupada was here for the opening in August, his rooms were not completed, and the interior door, which leads to a tiny balcony that looks directly into the temple room, had not been fitted. So it was like a mezzanine when you walked into the temple. Then if you looked up, there was Prabhupada's rooms were on the other side of the wall, but there's a veranda. And the intention was that when Prabhupada was in residence, then instead of having everybody cramming into his quarters for darshan, Prabhupada would come and sit on the veranda, looking into the temple room. Then everybody could attend the outing and see Prabhupada as well. Problem was that they didn't have the door on it at this point when Prabhupada was staying there, so they just hung a velvet curtain across the gap. But naturally, any noise in the temple would just go reverberate straight through Prabhupada's quarters. So it was a little problematic. But Prabhupada was very patient. The devotees had worked really hard to get the land built, to get the land and to then build a temple on it. So despite the arati, Prabhupada was able to engage in a lively discussion with his visitors. His divine grace also encumbered and is also encumbered by another difficult obstacle, his ongoing ill health. His hands and feet are again swollen from uric acid in his system, and his headaches due to high blood pressure have returned after his having had some respite over the last few weeks. But despite these troubles, his work goes on, and he spoke to his many guests from the late afternoon and into the evening. I've got a whole seminar that I do on Prabhupada's health. And when I came onto Prabhupada's party, he was already 80 years old. And he'd been preaching strenuously for 9 years. And he had a number of major problems with his body. I think underlying all of it was what do you call it? Diabetes. He adjusted for that with his diet. He would call the cook in every day, and he would discuss with them what he wanted. So he was trying to treat the disease with a good prasadam, but it was definitely causing him problems. Because from diabetes, many other diseases come in, the body gets ravaged by it. So he had, as I mentioned there, this swelling in his legs and feet, edema. That's another symptom of diabetes, but particularly it's a problem with the kidneys. So on a regular basis he was getting this edema. And the treatment that he took was just, he would take an allopathic pill, very small, as a diuretic. And by taking that, then he could pass out the fluid, excess fluid. And as soon as he got the relief that he wanted, then he would stop the medicine. I remember one morning in Bombay, he'd taken this diuretic pill, and he came into his room, sat down, he said, "I'm feeling dizzy from this medicine." He said, this is medicine for the demons, because it's so strong. But in general, his mood was not to bother with the diseases, because he was already old anyway. And although he did sometimes allow the devotees to bring a doctor, he invariably never took their medicine. So we may come to that. But so diabetes, kidney problems, all his teeth were starting to come out. I walked into Prabhupada's room on August 15th in 1976 in Bombay. We'd just come back from the last world tour that he did. And when I went into his room in the morning, Prabhupada smiled. And when I looked up from offering my obeisances, I saw that he had a gap in his mouth that wasn't there the night before. So I said, "Srila Prabhupada, what happened to your tooth?" So he didn't say anything, he just pulled the drawer open on his desk, and the tooth was lying in the drawer. So somehow or another during the night, he either pulled it out or it fell out. So he just put it in the drawer and went on with his work. Prior to that, when we were in Toronto, he had, his whole face was swollen on one side from teeth problems. So that was a serious problem. And then he got heart palpitations. So there was one time in New Vrindavan, Prabhupada said, "I'm not going to go on the walk today because I've got too much heart palpitations." So there were some major issues, and Prabhupada was very weak. I mean, at 80 years old, the workload that he had was unbelievable. Quite apart from touring the world and visiting all the ISKCON centres, of course, in the night time when everybody else was asleep, Prabhupada was up from 1 o'clock until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, translating his books. So, an extraordinary personality. I don't think that we've seen anybody quite like Prabhupada was. So this is December the 3rd, 1976. Prabhupada went on a walk in a local park this evening. Some life members and prominent men met up with him. One offered his pranams and asked Srila Prabhupada where he was going. "I'm going to my farm," Srila Prabhupada declared with a broad smile. The men accompanied Prabhupada on his walk, and as they moved at a gentle pace around the gardens, Prabhupada took up the issue of the many false representations of Bhagavad Gita made by Indian commentators. He particularly criticized first Dr. Radhakrishnan, who was the first president of India, and then Mohandas K. Gandhi for their misinterpretations and for changing Krishna's message. Prabhupada got into the issue quite strongly, forcefully condemning their incorrect understandings. All Indians are attached to these national political heroes and are often surprised to hear them criticized. But when Prabhupada speaks, they either have to agree with him or remain silent. Either way, his arguments are so well presented that no one is able to refute the truth of what he says. On arrival back at the temple, Prabhupada greeted the beautiful forms of Sri Sri Radha Madan and Mohan, Sri Sri Gaurnitai, and their lordships Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra. So Radha Madan and Mohan are actually 6 feet tall. They were the biggest deities in ISKCON at that point. And they'd been installed several years before. Then when we got the new temple built, Gaurnitai were purchased the same size, and then Jagannath deities. So Prabhupada was displeased with the altar flower arrangements. There were hardly any flowers at all, and even those were clearly not fresh. He didn't say much, though, because the temple is still in its early days, having been opened only a little over 3 months ago. The devotees are struggling to maintain everything, and Prabhupada doesn't want to discourage them. He received Guru Puja and then returned to his room without giving class. At about 11 a.m., Dr. Singha Ghosh arrived from Kodai Canal. Anybody know where that is? Kodai Canal? South India. Yeah, there's some mountain range there. So he was Jawaharlal Nehru's physician and treats the whole Nehru family, including the Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. He was informed by Mahamsa Swami that Srila Prabhupada is ill, and he has come here to give Prabhupada some treatment. So he travelled up, it's quite a long way. And after examining him, Dr. Ghosh explained that the swelling is due to the malfunction of Prabhupada's left kidney, corroborating the diagnosis that Prabhupada had received in New York in July from Dr. Bhagat. So Bhagat was an allopathic doctor. Prabhupada had come to the last stop of the temples in America, New York. He got there about the 11th of July. It was, in many ways, a memorable visit. We had the first New York Rath-Yatra. Prabhupada had started everything there in New York, but somehow or another, although the temples all around the world had picked up on having the Rath Parade, Rath-Yatra, it had not happened in New York. So finally this year, 76, they got the 3 large Raths, and we had a big parade down Fifth Avenue. So it was like a culmination of Prabhupada's preaching. And in that visit to New York, there was 5 hours away in Pennsylvania, there was a new farm, later called Gita Nagari. And so Tamal Krishna Maharaj invited Prabhupada to go there. So we went down on one of the Radha Damodar Sankirtan buses. They had about 6 or 7 Greyhound buses converted into temples. And they were selling Prabhupada's books all over America. It was pretty effective. They were collecting $50,000 a month and distributing tens of thousands of books. So Prabhupada accepted the offer. He went down to the farm. It was about a 5-hour drive. He said, this is like a dream come true, traveling on the bus and preaching. He stayed at Gita Nagari for one night, and during the night, about 1 o'clock in the morning, he rang his bell. And when I came in, he was just sitting there with his head down. and not moving. And it was obviously in some kind of really excruciating pain, because Prabhupada had this amazing tolerance for anything. There was one time in Delhi, he had just had a darshan. All the guests had left, so Prabhupada stood up. He was on a low wooden platform in the room, and he stepped down from that, and there was a carpet on the floor. As soon as he hit it, the carpet flew out. Prabhupada crashed down on the edge of the wooden board on his hip, and he didn't make a sound. I mean, normally when we get even a little poke or punch or something, not a sound. He just sat there, rubbed his head for a minute. I helped him up, and that was it. So he had this tolerance, and so that particular morning in Gita Nagari, he called me in and he said, "I can't work. I got too much pain from this kidney." So he didn't say anything more, and I was thinking, I wish I knew something. I could do something. We'd had this previously in a couple of months before this. He was in Hawaii. Again, he had the same problem. He couldn't work or go out on his morning walk a couple of times because of his kidney. So I asked him, I said, "Prabhupada, can we at least get a doctor to come when you go back to New York?" So he said, "Well, all right." He said, "There is something undoubtedly wrong, but I don't care for doctors." So when we got back to New York, I told Adikeshava Swami, he was the GBC, and he was in charge of the New York temple, that Prabhupada's got this problem. Do you have any doctors that can come and see him? So this Dr. Bhagat came, and after examining Prabhupada, he came to the conclusion either that he had a damaged kidney or he had a kidney stone. Either way, it was very serious. So he prescribed 5 medicines for Prabhupada. Some painkiller, something, an antibiotic to treat the disease in the kidney, a sleeping potion, and there was one other thing. There was 5 anyway. So the devotees got the list from the doctor. I told him, "You can go and buy it if you like, but I can tell you now, he won't take any of it." And that's what happened. They brought the pillboxes, and Prabhupada looked at him and he said, "No, just chant Hare Krishna." So that was his way of dealing with it. So anyway, this back to the Hyderabad situation. Dr. Ghosh was celebrated in some fields. He was the Nehru family's doctor, Indira Gandhi and all the rest of them. And so he heard Prabhupada was ill, and so he came and offered his services. Dr. Ghosh gave Prabhupada a special kind of massage to help dissipate the fluid. His touch provided immediate relief. Prabhupada liked his treatment and told me to learn some of his techniques. So he had this way of doing massage. He put both hands on, like on his leg, and then he would vibrate. And as he's doing that, he's going up and down his body, vibrating. And somehow, I thought it was just a show, but Prabhupada said it was good. He liked it. So, I mean, it sounded a little a little crackpotish. But later on, when we got to the farm, Dr. Ghosh came for 7 days, and Prabhupada really liked it. Then he had to go. So then the next day, when I came back on to doing the massage, he was using steam towels as well on the joints, and so I thought, all right, I'll give it a go. So I did the whole massage using this vibrating technique. At the end of it, I was exhausted. It was like it transferred all my energy into Prabhupada. And Prabhupada, on the other hand, was smiling, and he almost kind of leapt up onto his feet. He had some energy. So it was effective, but I knew there was no way that I was going to be able to do this every day. So I just went back to the regular massage the next day, and Prabhupada didn't say anything, so I knew that he wasn't expecting me to do something extraordinary. Okay, so the absence of Arundhati means that we have to fill in for her services. Arundhati is Pradyumna's wife, and they were traveling. She used to transcribe Prabhupada's tapes, whatever he dictated in the night time. And she was also cooking for Prabhupada. So she couldn't come to Hyderabad because they didn't have the visas at that time. So Tejas Prabhu, who was the temple president in New Delhi for several years, it turns out he is a very good cook, and he prepared Srila Prabhupada's lunch with considerable success. Prabhupada liked everything he prepared, so that's one worry dispensed with. The tape transcriptions did not go so smoothly, however. Both Jagadish and I tried our hand at it, but it took us several hours to do what Arundhati does in a few minutes. The section was from the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 9, concerning Maharaj Yayati and the narration of a story about a he-goat and a she-goat. I found this section particularly interesting because one night recently in Vrindavan, around midnight, Prabhupada had rung his bell. When I answered his call, he asked me, "What is that called, where there is hair on the face?" "A beard," I answered. "Ah, and on the lip?" Prabhupada had continued, motioning with his hand around his mouth. "A mustache," I ventured. Prabhupada nodded his thanks, clicked on his dictaphone, and continued his translations while I went back to sleep. I had wondered then what he was referring to. Now, listening to the recording in order to transcribe it, I could understand. It was a description of the he-goat. So there's a story about the goats there. Even with its point of reference, though, I found the transcribing very difficult. It's completely different from listening to a tape of continuous speech, such as a lecture. When Prabhupada dictates his translations and purports, he constantly clicks the microphone on and off, even in mid-sentence. He clicks on the dictaphone at the same moment that he begins to speak. There's a momentary delay in the recording, so the continuity is repeatedly broken by missing half or full words. Krishna, not Krishna, Jagadish. We struggled just to get a few sentences typed, passing the earphones back and forth between us as we tried to work out what Prabhupada was saying. It requires a trained ear to pick it out, and keeping up with his daily output, is not going to be easy. If anybody has any questions as we're going along, don't hesitate to stop. Prabhupada held a fairly lengthy darshan in the late afternoon, hosting a few devotees and guests in his room. The closed balcony door was only partially effective in reducing the noise from the adjacent temple room below as people gathered to join in the kirtan led by our brahmacharis. But Prabhupada didn't seem to mind. The sound of preaching is better than silence, and it is of a different quality than the mundane echoes of spiritual hours. It's a different quality than the mundane echoes of spiritually empty minds. As he often says, preaching means life. Prabhupada stressed to his guests the need to perform yajna. Quoting Bhagavad Gita, he explained that the most basic requirement of life is obtained if the proper sacrifice is executed. This rainfall will be easy when there is a yajna, he told them, and nobody is performing yajna. Therefore, nowadays, rainfall is in scarcity. In Europe, recently I have seen, there was no rainfall, whole of Europe. It was on the verge of drying, everything. So this punishment will come in this Kali Yuga. There'll be no rainfall, and there will be not sufficient food supply, and the government will simply levy taxes in the different pleas, and people will be so embarrassed that will give up their earth and home and flee away to the forests. It is stated in the Bhagavatam. He cited Shastra in support of the chanting, which boomed and receded in the background. Jagnayu Sankirtan Praya Janti Hi Sumeda Saha. He cited Shastra in support of the chanting, which boomed and receded in the background. You cannot perform the formal yajnas by sacrifice of tons of ghee and grains, because you have no sufficient food grain even. But still, if you chant this Sankirtan, that is yajna. Therefore, you must take to Sankirtan yajna. It is very easy. Serving the Supreme, he told us, should be done with all of our faculties: life, wealth, intelligence, and words. If one sacrifices his life for Krishna's cause, then it is first class. If he cannot sacrifice his life for Krishna, then he can contribute his hard-earned money for Krishna. If he cannot do so, if he has no money, he can use his intelligence. If he is not intelligent, then he can give some words. Just like we are doing preaching. We are preaching. Krishna Stu Bhagavan Swayam. So without any jugglery of words, we present to the people that here is Bhagavan. Krishna Stu Bhagavan Swayam. So giving up some words, sacrificing some words. Not that every one of us is very highly educated or very rich. Still, if we carry out the words of Krishna, as Krishna says, Mataparam Nanyat Kinchidasti Dhananjaya. So we have to carry these words, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Krishna. Prabhupada impressed upon his audience that presenting Krishna's words without adulteration is the actual qualification to be a guru. Being a guru is simple, he said. Even in your village, in your home, you can say to your wife, to your children, they will accept that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then you become a guru at home. Where is the difficulty? Is there any difficulty? But people will not do that. He challenged his visitors. This truth they will not say. What is the reason? Say what is the reason why they do not carry this message simply to say everyone, whoever you meet. You are meeting daily with your wife, your children, your friends. If you simply do this missionary work and say that Krishna is the Supreme, then you become a great devotee. You become a guru. Why people do not do so? It is not a very difficult task. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. He said that by my order you become a guru. Prabhupada actually, when he was a grihastha, living in Allahabad and later on back in Calcutta, he would, every day, they had their Radha Govinda deities, and he would bring them all in, and they would sit and chant for 15 minutes or half an hour. And because his wife was not very cooperative, she wasn't against devotional service, but she wasn't exactly for it either. It was an inconvenience a lot of the time, but Prabhupada was very stubborn. So whenever he got the chance, he would sit them down and chant. Prabhupada told his guests that this instruction was especially applicable to the Indians because, however fallen they may be, they still have respect for Krishna. Every home they perform Krishna's Janmashtami. So therefore Indians are fortunate. They recognize Krishna. So that's the value of a birth in India. Prabhupada always said that. He said all the Indians are devotees, but they just have to be woken up. The words for which he appeared on this earth, if you simply carry out these words door to door, village to village, man to man, then you become a guru, a real guru. Not to pose yourself as a guru without any knowledge of Krishna. That is cheating. And to accept and understand Krishna, the Supreme, thoroughly, and preach these words, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the supreme success in life. He pressed his visitors. What is the difficulty? Is there any difficulty? Why don't you do that? I have to bring all these young men from America and Europe to speak to you this truth. Why our young men are not coming to speak this truth? What is the difficulty? It means willfully they are denying the success of life. Willfully. Then what can be done? If somebody willfully commits suicide, who can save him? So, Prabhupada often said that. If you don't take up a spiritual life, then you're committing suicide. Because you've got something so valuable, the human form. But if you don't use it to elevate yourself, then time will take it all away. Prabhupada quoted Narottam Das Thakur, Hari Hari Bifale Janama Goano Manunya Janamapayi. I got this opportunity of human life, but I could not worship Radha and Krishna. Therefore, voluntarily, willingly, I have drunk poison. This transcendental Hare Krishna mantra, it is not ordinary vibration. This vibration is coming from the spiritual world, but I have no attraction. One of the guests said that he talked to the local radio about our activities, and Prabhupada thanked him and told me to give him some prasadam. Prabhupada's thoughts went to the purpose of his visit here in Hyderabad, and he told the man that now we have a very big block of farms situated in Medchow, near Hyderabad. Has anybody been there? Anybody from Hyderabad? Or? No? It's about an hour's drive. His plan is to provide a facility for people to live simply, taking what they need from the land and become Krishna conscious. But unfortunately, people don't want that kind of life. He described how when driving in from Vrindavan, he had observed hundreds of young men cycling to work in the industrial areas of Delhi. He regretted their unfortunate lot. They're going to the factories on cycle, coming from a distant place, at least 20 miles, 25 miles, and it takes 2 hours to reach the factory, or more than that. And there he works hard, 8 hours, and then again he has to go back 2 hours, 3 hours on cycle. I do not know what kind of rest he takes. This is life. And if we request these young men that you come here, you live here comfortably, you eat here sumptuously, and chant Hare Krishna, they will not. They will rather work like mudas. While expressing his sympathy for these unfortunate souls, his face soured in disapproval as he thought of their reticence to approach spiritual life. This is Kali Yuga, all bad men, unfortunate and disturbed. This is the position. They will work so hard, they'll daily catch passenger trains, Calcutta, Bombay, I have seen. They're actually hanging, and some of them are falling down, losing life, and coming from hundreds of miles away. But still, if you ask him that, come here, live with us, chant Hare Krishna, even with your family you can come. We're doing that in Mayapur. But he will not. How strong sense gratification propensity is. This is the position of Kali Yuga. Recalling the foolish man that he had met on his morning walk in Chandigarh in October, Prabhupada said, they're making propaganda. Roi, kapa, makan. Bread, cloth and house. So we are giving. Come on. You chant Hare Krishna. No, I want wine. I want meat. I want rundi, prostitute. So this is going on. Simply they say, Rui, kapa, makan. But no, they want wine, woman, and sense pleasure, that's all. Rui, kapa, and makan is not difficult, you can get, but they want something more. Basu Ghosh Prabhu mentioned that the laborers who had been hired to build our temple would pay 20 rupees a day. Out of that, they would spend 10 rupees on drink. It's one of the curses of India. The English wine and beer shops, even in Mathura district and so many other places. Unfortunately, as Prabhupada said, it's all bad leadership, industrialization, and all the bad habits coming from the Western countries. So Prabhupada shook his head in disgust and irony. And because we're trying to stop this thing in Europe and America, there is agitation that these people are propagating brainwash. How is it that a man will not eat, drink? This is brainwash. Leaning back on the bolster of his seat, he picked up a flower from his table. Admiring its beauty and fragrance, he said that the scientists are very proud of their achievements. But he asked, can they manufacture such a nice thing? Still, the rascals, they say there is no God. What do you think? How do they say there is no God, these rascals? What is the reason? Tejas said he thought that they were all misers. But Prabhupada was more direct. I say rascals, fools, and rascals. That's all. That is their real position. Muda. This very word is used in the Bhagavad Gita. Muda. Muda means rascal, ass, asses. Anyone who denies the existence of God, he is a muda, ass. He is not a human being. If you are intelligent enough, by seeing this flower, you must admit that there is a God. We're in Mayapur, we're working on the temple of the Vedic Planetarium. Most of you, I'm sure you must have seen pictures or even been there. Who's been to Mayapur? Not so many. Well, you're invited to come back, and the other ones are invited to make your maiden journey. But in that building, Prabhupada told us we have to put a planetarium in the temple. So we've got this, the structure's all done. I've been working with Jayapataka Maharaj and Rameshwara Prabhu, Trijakama Prabhu, and several other devotees. We've got a committee for developing the exhibits that we're going to have in the, what we're calling the Science Museum of the Vedic Planetarium. And we've got 4 floors. There's 8 or 9 exhibits on each floor. And then on the top floor, there'll be some kind of a full dome experience. We're just working on that now. So we've got a narrative. We have figured out all the different exhibits that we're going to have. And it'll begin on this body, and then it will show how it's not possible for evolution, material evolution, to take place. There's plenty of evidence of that now, and there's lots of scientists, although they won't go as far as saying that there's a God, but there's a lot of them that are interested in this, what do you call it? Irreducible complexity, intelligent design. That says that there's, on a certain level of biomolecular substance, you can get to, if you look inside a cell, there's some components there that it's impossible that they could come together in a working unit. There's one, what's it called? There's some little minute sorry, I didn't hear that.
Yes, on the quark level?
On what level?
Quark, it's science, atom, and then it's the lowest level of quark.
I can't tell what he's saying.
Saying it's on the quark level, which is this atomic, and then beneath the atomic level is the quark level.
Okay, I hadn't heard that one before, but anyway, the point is that there's 40 components that make up this triphage or something like that.
DNA? He's saying is it DNA?
No, it's a little thing. It looks like a microscopic submarine. It actually has a propeller, and okay. Anyway, so some scientists in the last 20, 30 years have started to admit that there's no evidence whatsoever that evolution is in any way true. Rather, we see that these intelligent design means that it couldn't be a random combination of elements to make up this particular microscopic being. It's got to have all the 40 components in the right place, working together for that particular part of the cell to work. So we're using that material, then we're also presenting evidence on evidence of transmigration of the soul. There's near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences. They all have to be explained, and then we move on to different kinds of life in the universe. We get from the Bhagavatam, the 5th canto, the Vedic cosmology, how the universe is structured, and then from there we show, or we're going to show, Prabhupada quotes, according to the Brahma Samhita, that we should show Devi Dham, Hare Dham, Shiv Dham, and Goloka Vrindavan Dham. So showing a picture of the whole universe and different activities that are going on. So Prabhupada was always very keen. I don't think there was a day in the time that I was with him, it was about a year and a half, there was probably not one day when Prabhupada didn't have something to say about the scientists and the cheating that's going on there in the name of advancement of knowledge. So one of his favorite examples, just see a flower, how intricately it's made, and the colors, the smells. It's just not possible to say that it came about by chance. So there was a young boy in the group who had come with his father. Prabhupada called him forward and asked, "Who has manufactured this flower?" Without hesitation, the boy replied, "God." Prabhupada smiled with delight. "Very good." He congratulated the shy boy, who blushed, and everyone laughed. "Thank you. He is intelligent." And the rascal will say, "There's no God." What is that verse? He glanced over to Tejas, who began to leaf through the Bhagavad Gita to find it. As he did so, Prabhupada continued, again focusing on the young boy. "I'm very pleased that you have immediately answered the right thing. This is intelligence." By habit, Prabhupada always likes to have someone on hand with his books when he is preaching, and frequently he has a verse that he has cited read out loud, often with its purport. Tejas now obliged him. "I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my internal potency." Now here is intelligence, Prabhupada told us. This boy has got intelligence. Therefore he can see. Behind this flower there is God. He immediately answered, "That is intelligence." He's not seeing God, but he's seeing God. God is not present face to face, but it doesn't matter. Just like the Prime Minister of our country. She may not be present here, but that does not mean that she's not there. She is there. So he's seeing God and not seeing God. There was a young, Now here is intelligence. The rascals ask if we can show them God. But God is easy to understand through his energies. By observing a fan, an intelligent person can understand that there must be a powerhouse source behind it. It does not run automatically. As soon as the electric energy is stopped, the fan is stopped. The room is dark. So there is a powerhouse behind this electrical energy. And the powerhouse is being managed by one engineer. That is the natural conclusion. And Krishna says, "Mayajak prakriti suyate characharam." Under my supervision, the material nature is working. Again, he asked Tejas to read out the verse as well as the whole purport. Prabhupada observed that modern scientists make it their first business to deny the Supreme. That is modern. It is a curse for the scientists if they talk of God. Amongst these scientists, there is an etiquette not to talk of God. Everything science means everything nonsense, passing on as scientists. So Prabhupada was, at least I was brought up in England, British grammar school education, and I just couldn't believe that there was a God. I was a regular atheist for a number of years in my ill-spent youth, and the whole educational system everywhere in the world now is based on ultimately atheism. That there's no God. It's just the laws of nature that are interacting. There's no direction to it. It's all just some kind of chance combination that's come about over eons of years. And it wasn't until we met Prabhupada that we started hearing that modern science is cheating, that the scientists are, they know that what they're saying is not correct, but still they make themselves as authorities. So Prabhupada didn't like that you don't know exactly what's going on. Just like I saw the other day, this rascal, that British professor, Dawkins, the God delusion, became famous for that. And he goes around the world preaching atheism. But when he was asked, what is consciousness? Because consciousness is something that nobody understands. They don't know where it comes from, they don't know how it's formed, what it's constituted, but it's there. So this interviewer with Mr. Dawkins, he asked him, well, what is consciousness? So he said, well, I don't know. Nobody knows. It's not something that you can understand. Well, if you don't know, then why are you going around saying that there's no God? That means that in your presentation, it's prejudice. Because if you look at it objectively, even if you say I can't understand this God, but you can't say there is no God either. I woke up to that one when I was about 19. I started to realize that being an atheist was being dishonest. Because you can't really say if there's God or not. So that means the possibility is there that God does exist. So Prabhupada was hammering on this point every day. There wasn't a day went past without Prabhupada saying something about the foolishness of the modern scientists. They feel a great anxiety to talk about God, he said. Once, about 3 years ago, I had met one big scientist. Oh, sorry, this is Basu Ghosh talking. Basu Ghosh offered a confirmation, briefly narrating an experience that he had with the prominent physics professor, James Schaefer, whom he had met informally at the Christmas party of a relative. They feel great anxiety to talk about God. Once, about 3 years ago, I had met one big scientist from the University of Chicago. My father had invited me back home for something, and the scientist was there. We got in a big discussion with him and his daughter. They were just saying, we don't see God. There's no evidence of God. Even logically, we could show them, but they still didn't want to accept. Ultimately, they couldn't say anything. Prabhupada asked him, what was their logic to deny God? Basu Ghosh shrugged. They don't have any logic, and ultimately, if we present our conclusions of Bhagavad Gita to them, they are silent. They can't say anything, but they still refuse. They don't accept it, but they can't deny it. Prabhupada tipped his head side to side. His point confirmed yet again. That is dog's obstinacy. The dog, however you ask the dog to stop barking, it will go on barking. Dog's obstinacy. When we were in Mayapur and the Gaur Purnima festival, Prabhupada was telling us about this, the scientist's obstinacy. So there was two men, friends, walking down the side of a river, and there's some cut paper, torn paper. So one of them observed that was cut by scissors. And the other one said, no, it was cut by a knife. So they started arguing, scissors, knives, scissors, knives. So he got so angry that he got his friend and he threw him in the water, and he couldn't swim. So he was drowning. So as he disappeared under the water, his hand came. So he's drowning, but still he's so obstinate. Yeah. So Ten just completed the reading of the purport, and hearing the beginning of the arati downstairs, Prabhupada sent most of the devotees to attend. His guests remained, and one of them asked about worship of the demigods. Prabhupada told him that God is one, and that there is only one God, and all others are servants. The guest was confused because in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, of all the Rudras, I am Shiva. Prabhupada explained that that verse means that Lord Shiva has some godly power, not that he is God himself. Worship of Shiva is not worship of God. There is a distinction, he said. You purchase a ticket for Delhi, you can go to Delhi. How you can go to Bombay? But amongst the people there is a misconception, his guest said. Then people are rascals, Prabhupada replied dismissively. Popular vote doesn't make somebody God. Therefore, the mudas are there. What value have they got? They have no value. Another guest joined in, quoting Sanskrit to the effect that all the gods should be respected. That's all right, Prabhupada agreed. You can have respect for everyone. That is good. But it does not mean that by purchasing a ticket for Delhi, you go to Bombay. And it doesn't mean that because you go to Bombay, you have no respect for Delhi. That is not. But if you want to go to Delhi, you have to purchase a ticket for Delhi. If you want to go to Bombay, you must purchase a ticket for Bombay. Why do you speak nonsensically? That whatever ticket I purchase, I'll go to Bombay. With everybody laughing with pleasure at his obvious logic, Prabhupada told him frankly, this is nonsense. They'll take it to the nonsense theory. That is Vivekananda's theory. Whatever you do, it's all right. Yatamat tatupat. And that is not a fact. Because Prabhupada was from Calcutta, which is the base of a big pseudo-spiritual organization there, the Ramakrishna Mission. Vivekananda was the forerunner of destroying Indian culture. He went to Chicago in 1893, I think, as a World Religions Parliament, and he more or less turned out the whole Vedic culture. He was a meat eater, he drank wine, there are no problems in doing all these sinful activities, and still they were being called sannyasis. So Prabhupada was always very vigorous in preaching against their foolish philosophies. Just because the world is full of rascals and mudas, he said, it doesn't mean that we have to change our preaching. His guest smiled. There is no medicine for mudas. Prabhupada grinned. Yes, there is medicine. There is beating with shoes. With all of us laughing, he continued, that is going on. Argumentum ad baculum. You cannot mildly speak to the animals. My dear cow, my dear dog, please do not bark. Do not go this way. No, you require a lathi, a stick, and then they will behave. Can you stop dogs barking by simply request? But if you take the stick and beat it, then he'll stop. Mukasha laktosh sadhu. So there is no king, there is no kshatriya, and therefore these rascals are all talking nonsense. There is no control. This king's duty to see that they are acting according to Shastra. But there is no such king. Everyone is acting whimsically, whatever he likes, and the so-called Swamis are preaching. No, whatever you like, that's all right. You can eat whatever you like. You can do whatever you like. You think yourself that you are God. That's all right. So this is going on. By thinking himself that he's God, he becomes God. To everybody's delight, he indulged in a bit of humorous mockery. This is going on, so many meditations. I am moving the sun, I am moving the moon, I am moving moo. And rascals are following them. They do not know the process of God, the guests agreed. I know, Prabhupada said positively. There is no question of an individual. I know these rascals. God is so easy thing that simply by thinking that I am moving the sun, then I'm moving and moving. The votes we cannot say. The votes may be against us, but we cannot agree to that. We simply speak for Krishna's sake. That is Krishna. We cannot make any compromise. The guest mentioned that this particular mission that espouses Yatomat Tatupat also says that one can worship himself as the Devata, the Supreme. Yes, Prabhupada said soberly, I know these rascals. Therefore, the country's position is the godless India. They've lost their culture. One of the devotees added another popular erroneous quote. Also, the Paramahamsas never speak, people say. Prabhupada, referring to the bogus Paramahamsas, said that they may speak all nonsense, but he added, Krishna is accepted by all the acharyas, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Nimbaka, Chaitanya. They are important men. Evam parampara praptam, imam raja sho vidu. So we have to give up the instruction. So we have to give up the instruction of the Acharya and accept some rascal? That we cannot do. Acharyo pasanam. In Bhagavad Gita, it is recommended that you should worship the Acharya, not these rascals who talk all nonsense. Then you'll make progress. Acharyo pasanam. Is it not? And still in India, the Acharya's parampara system is existing. Sampradaya. Ramanuja Sampradaya, Madhvacharya Sampradaya, Nimbaka, all going on. At the sound of the beginning of the last evening arati, Prabhupada brought the darshan to a close. The session visibly drained him. Sending everyone out, he took about an hour's rest. It is unusual and disturbing to see him so fatigued and indicative of his failing health. When he woke, he rang the bell and I went into his room. He felt a little better and he talked for a few minutes, continuing the theme from his earlier darshan. Regretting the lack of real leadership in present-day society, he told me that capturing governments is also Krishna-conscious business. That was Prabhupada. There were certain things that Prabhupada indicated would come. But he said, I think he quoted Chanakya Pandit, that if you have something in your mind, don't speak it to anyone, because if you do, it'll be immediately spoiled. So Prabhupada had some plans, or some vision of ISKCON, or Krishna consciousness movement for the future, where all of these discrepancies in human society will be resolved. But he said we can't do that right now. Just like there's a rose and a thorn. So in the same way, he told myself and Tamal Krishna Maharaj when we were in Gita Nagari that Krishna has his plan, and when he executes it, then you see all these demons will be removed. So that's happened 5,000 years ago, and it's going to continue. It will come up again at a certain point. The earth has become overburdened with so many nonsense activities. So Prabhupada's entry into human society was not out of sentiment. It's that Prabhupada came for a specific purpose, to change the whole civilization. To, as he said, the deprogrammers that were accusing that we were trying to change their culture. So Prabhupada said, yes, it's a nonsense culture, and I came to change it. So, just as Krishna did with the Battle of Kurukshetra, Prabhupada said, now my ambition is to capture the US government. Then this demonic civilization will be finished. Prabhupada always thinks big. And what do you know? 50 years later, we've got an American president with a vice president who's an Indian Hindu. He's been made a vegetarian because his wife is Hindu. We've got the head of the FBI, Kash Patel. And we got Tulsi Gabbard, who's the National Intelligence Director. These are very powerful positions. And now we're seeing that Vaishnavas, Gaudiya Vaishnavas, are being put in these high positions. So this is just the beginning, but it's an indication of what's to come. In England, they had that Rishi Sunak. He was the Prime Minister there. They all come to our Bhaktivedanta manor, all the big politicians, because they know that the Indian community is very influential. They're very intelligent. They have a lot of money. They're hard-working. And it's... I think it's a sign of Lord Chaitanya's movement. If you go back, we're doing our 50th anniversary, this temple. And if you look back at that time, we were daily being chased down the street by the cops and, fined and so many things. But now, people are just happy to see the devotees. Our reputation has gone from being a weird cult into being the most bona fide representation of Indian philosophy, religion, and culture. And that's all due to Bhaktivedanta Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and Śrīla Prabhupada. So we should depend on Krishna. And let's see what will happen in the next decade or so, few decades. Something's going on, something big. And it will be to our advantage. Just the last point, when Prabhupada was in Bhubaneswar in 1977, he was going on his morning walk, So we were driving into Bhubaneswar, and as we drove along, there was some army people, about 2,000 soldiers on route march. So on either side of the car as we drove through. And as we got through the soldiers there, Prabhupada said, Krishna will bring all these demons together and finish them all. So, all right, I'm going to stop there. Does anybody have any questions? Just excuse me one moment.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Any question?
Yeah, Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the very nice sharing of the pastimes of Srila Prabhupada. I had one question. I just wanted to understand what was the vision Prabhupada had of the future of ISKCON? How did he see the ISKCON will it grow and will it have its problem? What kind of vision did he have?
What vision?
What vision he had of the future of ISKCON?
He definitely had a vision of a world being run by God-conscious Vaishnavas. That was one of his aims. You would see so many times when Prabhupada was saying that the real problems in life are due to the bad leadership. The people in general are kind of innocent, but due to bad governance, all these anomalies have come into society, and people are suffering because of it. You know, the example that he gave there of the young men on their bicycles going and working like dogs in the factories. And now, I don't know about in India, but urbanization has taken over. There's more land devoted to industrial enterprise than there is for growing food, and it's reaching a tipping point, as they say. So let's see. We may be around to see the fun.
Thank you, thank you, Prabhu. The reason why I asked this question is we can see that, as you mentioned, the bad governance things and all, and as we are celebrating the 50th anniversary, our temple is faced with a lot of challenges with bad governance and, you know, kind of issues where atheists who are not believing in God and they don't want this culture to move forward. So it's becoming increasingly difficult to run a temple in this kind of environment. So that's why that was the intention of understanding what is Prabhupada's vision.
Yeah. Well, one person can make a big difference.
Yes.
I mean, after 53 years in the movement, I'm still not I'm nowhere near grasping who Prabhupada was, what he's doing. It's beyond my vision. It's just amazing. Whenever you look at, I read about Prabhupada a lot, and it's just inconceivable what he achieved. And that was just the starting point. It's, like he said, my books are like seeds. And So there's 600 million pieces of literature have been distributed by ISKCON in the 50, 60 years that we've been around. So that's got to have an effect at some point. People start, they get fried from bad management, and when you're at the right point, Krishna makes an intervention in your heart or through some external source, and then you get serious if you're pious. So we have to increase the piety. What's that? Unknowing. What's the Sanskrit word? Unknowingly, people have to be purified. They'll not do it voluntarily. But if you feed them the tongue, like you can control any animal by the tongue. So Prabhupada's formula was very simple. Chant, dance, and eat prasadam. Just give them that much. Don't worry about the philosophies too immediately. Just let them become purified. Once that purification, sukriti, agyata sukriti, without knowing you get sukriti. Sukriti means the way by which you go back to Godhead. So Prabhupada's movement was all based on this agyata sukriti. They don't know what we are, they don't know what devotional service is, but they like burfi, they like sweet rice, puris, kachuris, samosas. Therefore, Prabhupada encouraged us to have so many restaurants. Okay, so I guess we have to finish there. So thank you all very much. If you want any books, I've got my diaries here. You can see Abhay Charan, Prabhu.
From the back.
Shri Shri Radha Ballabh ki, Shri Srinitya Gauranga ki, Shri Subhadramari Jagannath Baldev ki, Shri Narasimha Dev ki, Śrīla Prabhupāda ki. Can somebody do this for me? It's really tight. And I need another mic here to